let's get started. If you have any questions, just write it in the chat. I can see it on my mobile sooner or later, and I will respond afterwards. Yeah? Type your comment. Zurich. Good. Now, you see the screen. Let me enlarge this, and then we can see more. The question I get on a regular basis is how long until I'm fluent in German, or how long does it take to learn German? And I'll take a look at that question in a couple of different angles, from a couple of different angles. And as I said, it will be a short presentation, and then the Q&A can be 15 or longer. Just a few words on me. I actually used to be a German tutor, someone who teaches German for a living. I started in 1999 in Poland because I needed the money. But I actually found out I'm very good with people, good with groups and psychology of groups. And the German teaching was just a little add-on to that. And I actually started understanding and learning about German language and grammar and everything else, and teaching and conscious learning when I started teaching. Before that, I was a mediocre German student myself, but 20 years can make quite a difference. I'm not teaching one-on-one anymore because that's simply not necessary anymore. There is very little need to hire someone for a lot of money or for little money. And that is a good thing. Yeah, we live in the 21st century. We have technology at our service, so let's make use of it. Why waste human lifetime and lots of money, which in the end translates into human lifetime, by working with people we do not have to work with? Yeah, that doesn't mean you can't work with them, of course, but I don't recommend it. The first teacher I was making redundant was myself. And I made really good money with teaching one-on-one, but it's simply not ethical anymore to do that. I have a bilingual kid. Actually, he's trilingual. He learned English because most of my and his mother's friends were not German or Polish. And that was quite an experience to see him grow up. He speaks Polish with his mother and his siblings on that side, and he speaks German with me and English with all the friends we have. And yeah, it's just beautiful how effortless learning can be. Yeah, if you are not focused on achieving something or pleasing someone or getting grades. And we chose that concept. Everybody speaks their native language very consciously. There were different concepts, and they're all certainly valid to some extent. I love psychology, especially the psychology of learning and of teaching. But there's, of course, way more to psychology than that. There's also the, let's say, the science of the mind, whatever science means in this context. Your mind is your biggest asset and your biggest enemy, and therefore it's good to know who your mind is or what your mind is and how you can make good use of it and avoid getting into trouble with it. And this is all reflected in what I do in my work. Now, the question is, what is fluency? Yeah, I will talk about this in this order. Just this is an overview of the main, paragraphs of this presentation. The second is I will look into how long it will take, because that's the main topic of this presentation. And how do you actually achieve fluency? And as it is a longer path, it's very important to figure out how you can stay motivated. Ready? So what is fluency? Many people understand that fluency means to be able to think in German and maybe dream in German. There's another definition as well. And by thinking, what they think is that they should speak to themselves in their mind in German. I call this inner monologue. Of course, there is a bit more to this, and not everybody thinks this way, but this is what I've found, and I found it very interesting. And this is indeed fluency. There's everything I say now is part of fluency, but there is one little thing to consider. The next thing is, of course, speaking without thinking. And that's what I do in English. I'm not thinking any words beforehand, so I'm not just reading thoughts of my mind. I just express myself in English, and I'm pretty fluent in English. That doesn't mean I'm perfect in English. Other people might think fluency means speaking without making mistakes, and you know that is only partially true. But if you make too many mistakes, then the understanding becomes difficult, and therefore fluency is not guaranteed. Yeah. Then there's the understanding that fluency might mean that you are able to express yourself in German or deal with tasks in German as well as good as in your native language. That's quite a high demand, but it's definitely also fluency. Now, the red X doesn't mean that what I just said is not true. It just means that that is something that will happen at one point, but it is actually rather something that you will experience well into B2, C1 level. Before that, all these things you have to take with a grain of salt because it takes time, and I will talk about the details in a minute. Now, what fluency really is, what's behind all this, the things I just showed you were basically goals that might be at the end of a part of your journey. But above all, it is important to understand that fluency is a process, not a goal. It really makes a difference. And it's a long process. You're not fluent in 1 month. It's simply not possible. Also not in 3 months, as you might have seen on the internet. Fluent in 3 months. While everything is possible, it is also very unlikely that you belong to the 0.1% of human beings that could achieve such progress. So how long it takes, I'll talk about later. It's very important to make mistakes. Mistakes are not a sign of weakness or something to be avoided. It's actually something that happens and that is welcome on the path because it shows you where you are. It's simply like a thermometer that shows you what temperature we have today so you know how to dress. And the beautiful, wise insight is you need to first master your mind and then your tongue. Mastering your tongue takes actually quite some time. It's also a physical task. When you speak German and you come from a different native language, you need to generate new muscles. You need to not generate new muscles, but you need to move muscles more that you haven't moved much because your language has different muscle requirements. Plus, you need to really establish new connections in your brain physically. And that takes time and repetition and repetition and repetition. And your mind is, as I said, your biggest asset, but as well your biggest enemy. And therefore, first you need to get a grip of your mind, on your mind. And then you have actually the space to achieve fluency. And I recently came across it was a post on Instagram, I forgot who it was, but he or she said, das Ziel ist im Weg, and I love that. Das Ziel ist the goal, and im Weg sein means it is in the way. So the goal is in the way, and that original quote would be, der Weg ist das Ziel, the path is the way. The path is the goal. But I like sorry, I can't speak. I like this. My mind was actually thinking about Weg, whether it should be capitalized or not. It's interesting how language works. So don't try not to be focused too much on the goal, but more on the path, on the journey. Now let's take a look at how long it actually takes. And of course, how much does that cost? And cost can be, of course, expressed in monetary units, US dollars, but also in time, because in order to have time, many people have to work. Now, A1 to B1 usually takes around 360 hours of lifetime. This is not lessons. Lessons are usually shorter and therefore more, but lifetime hours, that's what usually people get paid by. Yeah, you get paid by the hour. If you go to language school, you have to travel somewhere 120 hours. And that's assuming you travel half an hour to school, half an hour back for 6 months, because that's how long it takes in schools to get from A1 to B1 normally. Then they also give you homework. Yeah, every day you have to do at least 90 minutes of homework if you go to an intensive course. There's, of course, different models. These are intensive courses in schools I've worked with, and they still offer these to that extent. And in that time, you can reach B1 from level A1 onwards. If you then want to go to B2, as I said, true fluency will appear somewhere between B2 and C1. You need to add another 180 lessons, another 60 travel hours, and homework. And that all sums up to the amazing amount of 990 hours, just short of 1,000 hours of lifetime. This is just the average learner. And I'll show you more. Now let's take a look at the cost of this first. Well, cost in time is 6 months, as I said before. It's 3 months for B2, because B2 charges your brain, challenges your brain a lot more, because you have to learn way more complicated vocabulary and longer sentences, and therefore more complex sentence structure, which is highly abstract and therefore takes you a lot longer to digest. Yeah. With A1 to B1, you have a 50-50 chance to actually reach that level after 6 months of such an intense learning path. And that is an official number measured by the German government. And if you maybe reach out to the school near you that offers exams, you can ask them what their quota is. It's very likely very similar. In B2, I have no idea. B2 learners are usually very motivated, so it might be higher than that. But on the other hand, it's also way more challenging. And I've seen personally many people fail in B2. And therefore, it might be just as bad as for A1 to B1. Yeah. Again, 50-50 means you have a 50-50 chance to pass the B1 exam after 6 to 7 months of learning 4.5 hours a day. That doesn't necessarily say that you are a good German speaker or that you've done a good job. It might just say that you are good at taking exams and that your German might not even be to that level, or the other way around, that your German is good, but you actually are not good with exams. But just to give you an idea. And you have to pay $1,000 if you take the cheapest school in Germany, which is more or less the Volkshochschule, which is kind of a community college for A1 to B1. That's 6 months, so it's roughly 180 a month. It doesn't get much cheaper without exploiting teachers or other employees. In other countries, it might be a bit cheaper, but I think even in India, you would pay at least 100, if not 200 US dollars per month for that course. B2 then is another 500 US dollars. You can pay a lot more. The main or the most known school offering German courses worldwide would charge $7,000 at least, depending on when you actually start your course and end it. Yeah, so it's quite costly. And in addition to those $1,500 and the 9 months, you have to really calculate your missed income, because what you do there in school is like a part-time job of 4.5 hours a day. If you worked that time, you would have made very likely another $1,000. Yeah, if you get $10 an hour. So all these things need to be considered. If you take a look at my approach, which is the smarterGerman approach, and what it costs, well, I just assume, I don't have enough data, but I can say from experience and from what I see that you should be easily get through my course in the same time as you do in the common approach. Why should I aim for more? But the good thing is you don't need to travel. And that saves you already a lot of time, and you don't need any more homework. You already spent 3 hours on the computer. That's more than enough. If you want to spend more, that's all fine. And you might even reach your goal faster. And B2 the same. So you save a lot of time by not traveling and by not doing homework. And I know that you can also save time by doing any other online course. The problem with that I will explain also in a few minutes from now. So instead of 1,000 hours, you spend roughly 540 hours if you work with my course. Yeah, that's a lot of time. Let's assume it takes you 6 months to get from A1 to B1. It might be faster, might be longer, depending on how much time you have every day. As I said, the 360 hours in 6 months, that was based on working for in a school in an intensive course. Yeah. And the same for B2. I have no data how well people would pass the exam after doing my course. I just get an occasional email from people who thank me that I've created my course and that it helped them to pass the exam. But as I do not offer the exams and people like to not share everything they do, I just assume it's at least as good, because 50-50, that's easily achievable after my courses. Yeah, I have no doubt. And as I said, I don't need to be better than the others, just cheaper and save you time. So instead of $1,000, you pay $430 exclusive VAT. And if you go further, B2 the same, you even pay less. So overall, you pay $750 instead of $1,500. That's 50% off, plus 400 hours less spent on learning German, which you can use to actually enjoy the German language. Yeah, you still miss income, but it's 400 hours less. So that's the duration. It might take you 9 months. It might take you 1 to 2 years. But let's talk about this now. So how do you achieve fluency? First thing you need to know, it's a process. And you can, of course, put a lot of effort into the process, but you cannot force fluency. It's simply not possible. Your brain needs time to learn, and your muscles need time to form, reform, yeah, at least to an extent. And then there's psychology. You need breaks in your learning for your brain to digest things. And also mentally, you just need to stay motivated for a longer period of time. You cannot force that. You can force yourself to a certain extent, but you might break. Important is that you have good and constant input. That means you listen a lot, you read a lot. That's basically the main input you can get. And that's because you really, I don't know, in order to grow also physically, you need to eat, and that's input, and then your body can burn it. And then you put it out, with the food. We will not go into detail, but with language, there's the misconception that you should speak from the very first day. And by speaking, people always think you need to have a little conversation, like Guten Tag, ich heiße Herr Müller, ich komme aus Indien. That's irrelevant. You can do that, but it's a stress on your system. And initially, conversation might be simple enough to just give you the feeling that you do something. But speaking in the beginning is not necessary. And if you do that, and you do so with my courses, of course, as well, you have to do it very, very structured, in a very, very structured way. You need structure in the beginning, or you get overwhelmed very fast. And getting overwhelmed is something you want to avoid, because you have a longer journey ahead of you. If you run a marathon and you start running at full speed from the beginning, you're exhausted after kilometer 1, if not earlier. So you need to pace yourself and put enough information into your brain, also auditive information, which your brain will process without you understanding much. And therefore, you really need to plan this well. And most online courses that I've seen, if not all of them, don't understand that, and they don't tell you that. And it's no secret, and it's very simple. You need to practice. So once you have enough input, once you have the structure and the guidance to say something, then you practice that. But you practice it step by step, bit by bit. You will not have a freestyle conversation anytime soon. The first half year, you don't need that. You will have to have those if you live in a German-speaking country. That's not to be avoided, and there's ways to also prepare that, to improve that with what I call the dialogue technique. But that's something for those who already live in a German-speaking country. All the others, they really just need to speak the basics. And the basics are, for example, I see a bed. Do you see a bed? I don't see a bed. Why don't you see a bed? These are core sentence structures that you want to be able to say blindly when I wake you up at 3 at night and say, what do you see? And you want to say that properly. Yeah. But again, in a very structured manner, very guided. You need feedback. You wouldn't believe how many people I've met in my life that actually thought they were fluent in German, but the German that came out of their mouth was unfortunately rather survival German. It was fluent, but it was riddled with mistakes. And while it's fine to make mistakes, the number of mistakes makes all the difference. You need intelligent feedback. And by feedback, I don't mean that you talk to someone and the other person says, no, you have to say einen. Yeah, because that's just as annoying as it can get, and it doesn't help at all if someone puts their knowledge above yours. Intelligent feedback is feedback that allows you to find the mistake yourself and understand what went wrong. That might partially happen if someone tells you how it is said correctly, but I can tell from experience, also my own painful experience, that you're better off with someone who understands how to intelligently give you feedback. And you wouldn't believe how many teachers actually do that wrongly. Now, how do you get there? It's very important you use good methods. And good methods, just to give you a few top points here, means that the course you are attending explains things in English. I cannot say this often and clearly enough. If someone teaches you German using German, run. It is a waste of time. It's scientifically proven to be a disadvantage, and it is only out there for economical reasons for the school, not for you. It's not a benefit for you if the school or the teacher teaches you in German. They do that because they can put anyone in the classroom, no matter what native language they have, and they can put any German teacher in front of you that only needs to know German. There are people who do not know English or Arabic or Farsi, whatever language you want. If you have a teacher that teaches you in your native language, well, very good. But the most common language out there is English, which is why smarterGerman focuses on instructing in English. It's so important. It saves you lots of frustration, accelerates your learning by 200%. You need to practice intelligently. Many people ask me, why are there not more grammar exercises in your course? And by grammar exercises, they mean those predictable exercises where you just put in randomly or mechanically, not randomly, mechanically the endings or add a verb. Very simple exercises that after a certain time are predictable. I have some of those. They are entertaining to an extent, but they're not intelligent because you are a pattern recognition machine. You will recognize the pattern. If you don't recognize the pattern, then you have fundamental issues for sure, in the sense that the topic you're working on is not clear to you yet. Yeah. So they are a very weak way to show, okay, I got the gist of things, but you need to practice in a way that allows you to speak and use the language, also in written form, correctly, without having to think of any rules or gender, cases, sentence structure, all these things. They're good to know about, especially if you want to teach German one day. But if you don't want to become a German teacher, all these things are just there to support you. In the end, you need to practice in a way that just makes you speak without thinking. And that requires training and a very good course design. Individual lessons. And you might remember I said in the beginning that you don't need a German tutor, and I don't recommend that. So I don't mean hiring a German tutor. Individual lessons means if you go to a classroom with 10 to 20 or even 30 people next to you, that is not individual. That's group lessons. And you will learn in those group lessons because you are a learning machine. You cannot but learn. But you will not learn efficiently and effectively. So individual lessons means you work with a course, ideally an online course, that allows you to fit the content of that course to your daily schedule. Whenever you're free and feel like learning, you should be able to do so. No real life classroom allows you to do that. They have fixed times, fixed places even. It's so outdated. Don't do that. So online courses allow you to study whenever you want, if there's no live tutor there, which again, you do not need. Individual also means that you can adapt the speed of the course to your biology, to your mental condition. Sometimes we are faster in what we do, sometimes we are slower. Some people are by nature slower learners, some people are faster learners. And there is no big difference between the two in the sense of quality of what they learn. Yeah, some people might be faster but make more mistakes, and then they kind of work on the mistakes like I do. Some people are slower and more thorough, and in the end they all end at their goal more or less at the same time. And even if you are a month or two behind, who cares? You have years to enjoy the German you've learned. It needs to be individual. That is a scientific fact. If you want to be effective and efficient, individual lessons is the key. And that's why online learning and teaching is not only the future, it's actually the present. There's no way around this. And you need to work with a real online course. And by real online course, I mean, how do I say that? Duolingo is not a real online course. Duolingo is a game, and therefore it's fun to play with. It's nice to do all this translation stuff they do, but they are mainly focused on translation. They offer listening, reading, but it's completely random. There is no concept behind Duolingo. There's a concept on a certain level, but from a teacher's point of view, I see no coherence in the texts. It's all random. And if I've learned one thing over the last 20 years, our brain doesn't like random information. It likes context. It likes continuity. And that's why in Smarter German's courses, we work with a story. Story is something that keeps you interested. You want to know what's next. And it also helps you to put things in context, and therefore understanding is guaranteed sooner or later. A real online course is not a vocabulary trainer. So you can work on Memrise or Anki and learn 2,000 up to 5,000 words. Why not? But that's just collecting bricks in order to build a house, but you never really build a house. Yeah, and I know if someone uses a vocabulary trainer that they do also other things. But I've come across people who actually wrote to me and said, I learned 2,000 words with my dictionary. And that's how I learned German, because that was the only thing available. Yeah. So a real online course is like a beautiful dish cooked with love that you actually enjoy. It's not just noodles cooked and put there and put ketchup on it so that you have some food. It does something, yeah, gives you some sort of energy, but it's not a pleasure. So a well-designed course actually makes you enjoy what you do. And as I said, Duolingo you might enjoy for a while, and by all means give it a try for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and see where you get. You're just losing time, that's all. Yeah, and you will learn words and stuff, but you will see we've been mainly collecting bricks, maybe a few beams to later put in the ceiling. As this is a longer journey, as I said, 9 months at least, but very likely up to 2 years, it's very important to consider motivation. Motivation is one of the most delicate things to take care of. It can be destroyed in an instant. Yeah. The most helpful thing is, of course, if you work with interesting materials. If you are strongly motivated, as I said, you can learn with a dictionary. Yeah. So, but there is a relation between the material and your motivation. If you have to eat up your motivation in order to go through really boring stuff, then you will not stay motivated long enough. So it would be nice if you could relate to the material, yeah, in a positive manner. Very likely the most important thing that will help you stay put is not stay put. Stay with the course is that you comprehend what you're doing. That doesn't mean you have to understand every single word, but you need to know what you're doing. And that's why it's so important that the instructions are in English and certain explanations of things need to be in English. Because if I did this in German, then there would always be even at least a grain of insecurity, of doubt, of ambivalence. And you want to avoid that when you learn something. You're sensitive in the beginning. You are in unknown waters. You can't express yourself as you're used to. And that makes people feel very shaky, very, nervous as well. Yeah, even on a subtle level. And why would I want to pour oil on the fire by just exposing you to explanations in German? That makes no sense. So you need to be able to make sense of what you're doing. You need to experience real success. And that means, certain tools have like experience points, leaderboards, and then they give you rewards. This is all nice. And maybe one day I'll add that to my course as well. But if that is the only thing that motivates you, you might be lucky to still make it pretty far. But if there is a crisis at one point, and usually there is a crisis at one point, it's really, really difficult to get out of that with just a little bit of bling bling. So it's a little bit like a carrot in front of your nose. If that carrot is just, tasteless, cheaply produced stuff from Spain, from a greenhouse in Spain, you will be very disappointed once you taste it. So real success is something that enables you, well, first of all, will show you that you actually got something, and you have like a eureka moment, like, oh, yes. Another real success would be you live in a German-speaking country or come here for holidays, and you have a little conversation, no matter how it goes, but you order French fries and you get French fries. As simple as that. And these things are very, very important. If you are not in a German-speaking country, you might at one point start chatting with Germans on your gaming channel or wherever, whatever you do to get in touch with Germans. And there you have a very short conversation. All these little tiny things add up and they keep you going. Yeah, but don't get fooled by experience points and stuff and gamification. Gamification is fine, but it's hollow in the end. It's very good as an add-on, like a decoration on a cake. It just looks nicer, but if the cake is shitty, the decoration doesn't do anything to make it taste better. It just looks better. I talked about intelligent feedback before. Get feedback in due time. That means either immediately or within a couple of hours, depending on what the task is. And it needs to be feedback that doesn't take the joy from you, the joy of discovering what's behind a mistake yourself. That you need to learn on your own terms means that, let's say suddenly you have an hour of free time. You feel like, oh, let me do some German. You should be able to do so within a minute. Sit on your computer, open it, enter smarterGerman.com, and then dang, you're there, and you can do the next lesson without looking for anything, without getting your books ready or thinking about what do I do next. Bang, you open it, you are there in 1 minute, and you can work whenever you feel it makes sense. And it could be at 3 at night. So don't make yourself dependent on other people, like make an appointment with your tutor or go to a German learning class live or even physically. It is really, it's so last millennium. What helps is that you feel accountable to someone. In my courses, you feel free to take me as a referee. You can say, Michael, I will do this by then, and then you can share your success with me. I will not check in with you personally because it's simply not possible and also not necessary. But you will feel like, okay, I promise I do this. I also have something I'll show you in a minute, a tool that will allow you to set clear goals and identify when you've achieved them. Also identify issues on your path towards these goals. And then there's a community. Community doesn't necessarily mean that you sit with people in a virtual room and learn together or exchange information or practice speaking. That never works. Yeah, very few people actually succeed in creating learning groups. Try by all means, but any speaking practice groups, they might be happy for a month max, and then the usual level of German exchange there is horrible. It's guten Tag, wie geht's? Mir geht's gut. Hast du heute gelernt? And if you're lucky, it gets a little bit beyond that, but after a month, it just burned through. So community is a place where you can instantly find questions where there's other people that respond to your questions or your experiences that you share. And therefore you see, oh, I'm not alone with my issues, and I can share my success with others. So it's nice to share the joyful moments of your life. That is what I understand under community. All these things, of course, are integral part of Smarter German courses. Yeah. And if you don't want to work with Smarter German, that's fine, but make sure that the course you use uses at least some of these points or considers some of these points. And even if it doesn't, remember this talk in 3 months from now, working with whatever you work with, just come to a conclusion. See, okay, I've spent 3 months now, so and so many hours. Where am I? Was it worth my time? Was it worth my money in case you paid for it? Always evaluate, and the same with Smarter German. Now, it wouldn't be called Smarter German if I didn't have a beautiful tool for this. It took years for me to figure out how can I actually help people with the motivation. It's such a delicate thing to work with, and the science is still in the, we say Kinderschuhe, so in the beginning. But I met a beautiful man called Stevie. That's not Stevie, that's a guy from a stock photo agency. And he created a course on my behalf and with a little bit of my support, which I call the Infinite Motivation Training. Don't get fooled. While it is about motivation, it goes far beyond motivation, because you might already be strongly motivated. Yeah, I have no doubt about that, and I want you to fully exploit this energy. And yet, there might be even more potential in where you are right now. What the Infinite Motivation Training will do is it will help you identify and dissolve the blocks that you might have in your mind and might not see yet. See, when I say you might be very strongly motivated, it might feel like you're in love with the German language. And if you've ever been in love with a person, you know that at one point it kind of dissolves a little bit, if not beautiful for you. But let's assume you belong to 99% of the people out there. It subsides. And then the real issues come up. And these issues have been there all along. Just in the beginning, you were so high on your hormones that you didn't really care and didn't bother with them. Yeah. The same can be now. You're high and motivated, but there is fundamental issues in the way you have learned to learn that you should be aware of. And that would actually help you to stay in love a lot longer, or actually not bother too much about being in love, but just have this beautiful flow, the feeling of flow. The training will help you to get into a can't fail mindset. Trust me, it's a beautiful place to be. You think, okay, I got it. My blocks are clear to me. They're gone. I can't fail. And of course, it's not a one-trick pony, so one-time thing. Goals as well as mindset need constant care, and of course the training will take care of that. Yeah, but you need to know how to get into such a mindset. Super simple, powerful. It's a simple technique, or it's a series of techniques, but there's one main technique that is very simple to do. Everybody can do it, and it's very powerful. The good thing is you can get it for 50% off if you are a Smarter German customer. If not, it's still worth every cent. And as usual with Smarter German, you have absolutely no risk. You get 30 days to try the course and to ask for your money back. You will need a weekend, max 2-3 days, to see already whether that's good for you, but you still have a total of 30 days in which you can really Just thoroughly test it, even work through the whole course. And if afterwards you say, Michael, this was absolute not doing what I expected, you just write me a simple email and get your money back. I don't care. I want you to be satisfied. This motivation training is Stevie's work, therefore I have to charge for it. But I love this work because it will help you to finish my course, which is my main aim, to keep you going until you finish my courses. Or any other course. You can use the motivation training with any other tool out there. I don't even mind. And if you are not a Smarter German learner yet, my strongest recommendation, try the first lesson of any of my courses. I have courses from A1 to C1. Currently A1, A2, B1 are combined in one course. There's no way to separate them, but I'm working on a separation this year. But don't wait for it. It will take at least 6 to 9 months. So try the first lesson. First lesson already shows you everything you need to know, how the rest of the course looks like, what the course looks like. And as with the infinite motivation training, you have 30 days in which you can thoroughly test it and ask your money back. Yeah. After 30 days, you don't write anything to me. You're satisfied. No way out. So make sure that you test it thoroughly and that you know what you sign up for. And if you are insecure about anything, have any questions, there is an FAQ, frequently asked questions, or tonight you can ask on every sales page, course page at the bottom. That should answer most of your questions, and you can still reach out to me after that and ask, and I'll respond to you. I really want you to be crystal clear, feel safe, and just enjoy your learning. And you can only enjoy your learning if you really know what you get into. So if you take a picture of this, it leads you to the first lesson of the A1 to B1 course. You can also just go to smarterGerman.com and see. And yeah, very easy to find. You found this webinar, so you also found this. Now let's go to the Q&A. I actually managed to fill 45 minutes or 40 minutes. Pretty good. Now let's see whether you have any questions. If you have to go next week, there's a free Q&A in which we can talk in person on a different platform. Just see that you register for it in time. And yeah, thank you so far for your attention, and let's see whether there is anything I can do for you. Good. Okay, there's a few questions I can see. Let me take a look. So how to start thinking in German language? I generally tend to think in English and then translate in German. Nitish, I think I answered that in my talk. Is that still a question? You cannot force thinking. Thinking will come. If you still think in English and translate, that means you simply didn't practice enough. Very simple. And maybe you practiced with the wrong methods, the wrong approach. And that might also be, you cannot see that. Yeah? Io parlo italiano, das ist schön, Fabian. Io no parlo italiano. Aber dann war es das auch schon. That was it. I don't even know the word but in Italiano. So if I choose the course, will I get a chance to practice German orally with other course mates? No, you won't. Because you are a beginner. And as a beginner, this would just lead to chaos. You can try, by all means. Don't believe me a word. Just try and see, but reflect. Come to a conclusion after every lesson, after every session you have with a friend talking. Was it worth my time? Was it worth their time? If you are a bit empathetic, was it worth the money that I maybe didn't earn in that time? Always think of missed opportunities as well in a positive, light manner. Yeah, don't sit there and think, oh God, just wasted an hour of time. I could have made money. That's not the idea behind it. But time is the most precious good we have on this planet. And then comes health. You don't need to do that. You will practice with a computer. And trust me, the computer does an excellent job. It will even give you better feedback than 99% of the people you might be practicing with. Because I've programmed that computer. Well, I didn't, but I told people to program it in a proper manner. Yeah? Try the first lesson and you will see what I mean. There is one exercise already in the first lesson that will show you how to practice with the computer and get proper, intelligent feedback and how you will actually learn to speak proper German right away, very structuredly. You need structure. If I lose my interest before 30 days, will you return? Sure, Shiam, of course. But you need to be within the 30 days. Day 31, nothing I can do because of technical restrictions. Until day 30, I can click a button. You get the money instantly. It takes a couple of days depending on where you live and what payment method you've used. Yeah, and after that, it's just a nightmare. So it's not possible. Ideally, I would love to give people a all lifelong money back guarantee, but possibly that would ruin me as a business. But I would love to try that one day, but technically that's unfortunately impossible. And by the way, there's in bad months, there's only 5% people, 5 out of 100 who want their money back. And that's usually because of now COVID or change of plans or I don't know, their hamster died. So it's very rarely because they didn't like the course. And those that didn't like the course were people who didn't check the first lesson. Usually we have a money back guarantee, money back rate of less than 2%, 2 out of 100 people. Well, that's a very fair rate. And I never hesitate to send money back. I always give the money back. Yeah, I really don't care if you say you don't want, it's your decision. Yeah. What I do is I offer things. I don't sell things. I'm not a salesperson. I have an offer and you take it or you don't. I need to start learning German with a perfect basic course. Yeah. Scared of long words in German. No need to do so. In my course, I also show you how to analyze longer words, but you don't need to. They are very logically constructed, and the long words are actually the least important ones. The more important ones are the verbs. So you need to learn what to focus on. If you're scared of long words, you possibly had a bad course before that didn't tell you exactly that. Yeah? Yeah. No need to overcome the fear. You overcome fear. Fear is usually there if you feel insecure, if you are afraid of what might come, of what you might miss or what you don't know. And it's a natural fear. Yet this is part of the learning psychology in my course. That's what I will remind you of, that there's no need to be afraid of these things. And I show you very gently how to deal with such things, with that kind of fear. Yeah? What will the fees be for the Indian people, as Euro price is much higher for us? Will there be any discount for total course? Amit, there will be sales occasionally, but the next time I have a sale is possibly in, like, of my initial course is in 2-3 months. And there is no special price just because you live in India. My course is still cheaper than very likely any course you can get in India. Yeah, please take a look at local language learning institute and see what they charge you for sitting in a group course with possibly 30 people and of very questionable quality. My course is worth every cent, and it saves you hundreds of hours of time and hundreds of dollars already. Yeah. And the price is unfortunately in dollars at this point, unless you live in Germany. It will be transferred to Indian rupee. So if the dollar course is a bit better, so be it. It's hard with the sentence structure. Again, with everything that's hard. If you start studying physics, yeah, let's say in school, you don't start with quantum physics or relativity theory of Einstein, because that's something that is simply too hard to comprehend. You need to work on the basics first. You start to build a house, you don't start with the roof, unless you have a very interesting building model. You start with a basement. In Germany, we have basements. Then you start with the stones, the walls, and then everything else. So sentence structure is something that you need to simply prepare for. People expect to be in the clear about everything right away. And it's just not how it goes. Yeah, it's very rational. You can approach language learning very rationally, and it's like building a house. It's very simple if you know how. Take a look at the first lesson so you see how it works, and try to understand your mind a little bit better. Your mind is always afraid of not being perfect, of not being good enough, of not getting there in time. All these things are irrelevant. I'm at 8.2 certified, but I think I have a lost grip. Will you suggest to join beginner course or some intermediate? A2 definitely my A1 to B1 course. And again, try the first lesson and see whether you feel you're bored or not. Test it before you purchase it. Yeah. Hi, Anil. Thank you. Will you teach online German course with some fees? Anil, if you go to smarterGerman.com and look at my online courses and read the information on that page, you will see what I do. I personally will not teach. I will teach with videos. I will be in the background, answer comments in the community. And sometimes if you go through the free lesson, I answer to your comments. Yeah, that's where I am. I'm in the background, but I will not teach one-on-one because it's not necessary. And you shouldn't aim for one-on-one sessions. Yeah, Aziza, the course price depends on where you live. It is $429 US without VAT, without your local tax. So if you live in a country that charges some kind of tax from me, or actually from you, you have to pay more. You can pay in up to 12 installments, and I think then it costs something like $40 a month. Yeah, a bit more. And after that 12 months, you have lifelong access. Yeah, you will not be charged beyond that. So it's not a subscription, it's a payment plan. It's like paying off a car that you buy. It's not leasing. Very clear. Yeah. Saga asks, is this live? What do you mean? This current presentation? It's very live. Yeah. Unless you want to question reality, then we have to go into a different discussion. But my online courses are not live, because live, as I said in my presentation, is unnecessary and is a waste of time. Because you need to be at a fixed place at a fixed time, and that alone costs you so much time and energy. It might work for you, but why would you do that if you don't have to? Yeah, I want you to be flexible, to be an individual that is autonomous, independent from me and from anything else, but of course the internet. Yeah, you need the internet. That's the only restriction we have. One day we might be able to communicate telepathically, yeah, or have artificial intelligence implanted. I'm a part of the smarterGerman course, and he teaches the best. Thank you, Bona. I appreciate that. Will there be a course to help in German exam certificate? There is already one course that's called the B1 exam hacking course, which might help you already with A2 and a little bit also with B2. So it's worth a look. And with that course, you have also 30 days money back guarantee. But that course, just to be very clear, it doesn't teach you a word of German. It's not a German learning course. It is a course that very clearly shows you how an exam works, how to think through an exam, and what is expected of you in an exam, so that you go to the exam knowing exactly what's expected of you and puts you at ease and takes all the nervousness away from you that is usually associated with being in an exam, and also for the oral exam. So it is a strategy course that really helps you to hack the exam, but you need knowledge in order to pass the exam in addition to that. Yeah. How old I am? I'm as old as this universe. The atoms that were made to build this body were there in the very beginning. So other than that, my physical body has reached the second half of my life. Yeah. With this course, is that possible to write an exam directly, or do I have some extra effort to write the exam? With the A1 to B1 course, you can write the exam, but you need to prepare for an exam if you want to raise your chances. There is, as I said, the B1 exam hacking course that will help you to make best use of what you learn in my other courses or any other course you use out there. Yeah, you can register at any examination center and say, I want to take the exam, but you need to prepare, of course, for yourself and then go there. But I also give advice in my course, like on what to focus on. The writing exercises in my courses are usually structured according to the writing tasks in exams. These are just suggestions. People can also write about anything else, but so the written part is usually the part that scares many people, and that's why my courses prepare you well for that. But the written tasks, the writing tasks, do not come with corrections unless you book a correction service, because that requires lifetime, and lifetime is the most precious good on earth. And the woman who does that needs to get paid. Yeah. But I will teach you techniques, and I will show you tools that will help you to get a very good feedback from a machine. And you can see that already at the first lesson, but the writing tasks start only a lot later. At the moment, I will add some more simple ones soon. But the computer can actually provide you with solid feedback if you know how. Yeah. Just as we go, saw a time which said 52 minutes. Okay. We are in this for 52 minutes, but Saga, I get it. Can you please explain a little how to prepare for German section in Aufnahmeprüfung? Which German grammar book should I consider while preparing? Well, I don't know what you mean by Aufnahmeprüfung. There's so many Aufnahmeprüfungs for university. I've got no idea. What Aufnahmeprüfung do you mean? Test DAF or DSH? You don't need any grammar book at all. Grammar is the one thing you do not need in such exams. If you think that, you haven't been prepared properly for that. Yeah. The first thing, if you need to just focus on an exam, should be to look at an exam. There's sample exams out there that you can analyze with the help of a dictionary. And then you see, you don't have to understand anything. You don't have to pass that because you might not have been prepared at all. But you can see, that's what I have to do. And then you know what's the goal. When you know where the goal is, you know the direction where to go. You know all the waymarks on your path towards that goal. You need to work strategically. That's why structure matters most, and why the infinite motivation goal training, for example, is such a valuable tool. I haven't found any online course out there that considers these things. So do yourself the favor and check out my courses. They are really risk-free. I can only say that. And if it doesn't work for you, I don't want your money. But technically, you need to decide that in 30 days. And that's a fair amount of time. Yeah. So, and if you have a specific Aufnahmeprüfung, you can send me an email with that Aufnahmeprüfung and take a look at it and write you a few sentences on it. Yeah, but I will not teach you in detail, but I can guide you what to go for. Very little grammar in any exam I've met, unless it is something very specific. I've already completed a A2 German course. Now I have almost completed 50% of my A1 to B1 course. Good. I'm not still getting a hold of preaching, some new difficult ones. I'm not able to construct my own sentences. Then I go to the next step and I spend around 20 minutes practicing preaching. I also write them down. Is that the right way to approach? Hi, Sagar. First of all, please always reach out to me via the community and in the public section, not private message. That's a question many people are interested in. You can maybe already find an answer to that there. Writing that down is absolutely not recommended, and I say that clearly. But please reach out to me. I always get back to you there. Don't write it down. And speaking freely at 50% of the A1 to B1 course is simply an expectation that is far beyond what should be possible at this stage. Your expectations are too high. You need to look at that. And please look at the infinite motivation training, which also takes a look at such expectations. This kind of expectations, and Sarah, that's perfectly normal. Nothing bad here, right? And writing it down is not that bad. It just takes time that you could spend speaking with that technique. And therefore, you just wasted a bit of time, but you still benefited from writing it down. Don't worry. But whenever there's a grain of insecurity in, am I doing it right? Look in the community. Yeah, preaching takes long, and see what other people write. And if within 3 to 5 minutes you don't find an answer, just post it there, the question, and I get back to you within a day. Unless I'm somewhere else offline, but that's usually rare. Yeah. And this is the way I actually am in the background. I can help 1,000 active learners at the same time. And trust me, I'm not sitting there all day. The community already contains 90% of all the answers out there. And you don't have to wait for me to answer. But you will never wait long for my answer anyhow. Yeah? So 20 minutes of preaching sounds good, but your expectations are out of line, to say it nicely. And that's okay. It's what the mind does. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing you in the community saga. And then I can go into a bit more detail if this is not enough. Yeah. Okay. Good. Next week we will meet in person. I will see whether I can have the presentations also on Zoom in the future. Would be really nice. And because it's nicer to see people, I really want to change this platform. But for now, this is the way to go. Hope you took something from it today. It's just based on my experience. Don't believe me a word. Make your own experiences, yet always compare. Always come to a conclusion. Was it worth my time? Was it worth my money? Yeah, same with this. And you can rate this meeting at the end when you leave it. Would be nice to have a little review. I don't care whether you give me 5 stars or 1 star. I just want to see how you truly liked it and was it worth your time. And if you have constructive criticism, then send me an email with what you think could be improved. Yeah? Okay, one last question. I take that. It's a lovely one. So I'm a beginner and just moved to Germany some few months ago. What do I need to do to speak good German? Richmond, the answer is very simple. You go to the, oh, sorry, if you wanted to say anonymous, but the best thing to do is to go through smarterGerman.com and work through the very first lesson and see how it goes. My course provides you with a step-by-step approach towards your goal. Yeah. It is a longer process. I'm not sure whether you've seen the presentation or just joined late. And it requires a structured approach for most learners I've got to know. Yeah. So if you have any questions about that first lesson, you can also always write me an email via my homepage. It's very simple. Yeah. Because it would take a lot longer, and I had masterclasses that were solely talking about that. And today I was also all about this. The C test I've heard about, but I am not familiar with it. I think it's something very specific to your country. And what's the context? Aufnahmeprüfung for what? Yeah, you have to let me know what institution this is for, what institution is doing these tests. I can Google the C-test later, but the more info you provide me with, the better my answer and the faster. Yeah, I'll look into C-test one more time. I think it was indeed a gap test, and it was somehow indeed grammar related. But maybe for you, there's a way to avoid the C-test, and there's another kind of test you can take. So provide me with a bit more information, ideally via email then, because I want to close this meeting, and then I can take another look at that. Yeah. But don't go for any grammar book, please. Prepare for the test. It's a difference. You need a solid course to understand the grammar. Grammar books usually just explain the grammar. They talk about grammar, but that doesn't mean that you will be able to use it. I can't recommend any grammar books. Will podcasts help to learn German in your free time? Absolutely, if you know how to use them. And I show you how to do that in the first 2 lessons, I think, of my course. The first lesson is free, the second one is not, just to let you know. Yeah. But listening to podcasts is something that initially is not relevant, because if you don't have any knowledge of German yet and no possibility to comprehend what you hear, the best you can do is just have it run in the background for your brain to get used to the melody, the music of German. Yeah. It takes time before you are able to process the information that you hear. Okay. Thank you for tonight. Lovely questions, by the way, all of you. And hope to see you next week, or another masterclass, or in the free lesson, or in the paid lesson. You're always welcome. Any support is appreciated, and any question is a gift, because it helps me to understand what you really need and what I can add to my course. Yeah. Have a lovely evening. Okay, I see that. And yeah, you're always invited to reach out to me if you are a Smarter German student via the community, or if you are not yet decided to work with me via email. Okay, take good care of yourself, stay healthy, and enjoy your day or evening or your night.